Yes.
I think we need to identify opportunities of customers who we know have their wallets open and go after them together. We have to say these are the people who are ready to spend, rather than being a problem or a solution looking for a problem. We need to know what the problems are that need to be solved and put 3 or 4 of us together to go after them.
Absolutely.
And I think to give you my ideology about that, that has to be based upon a private for-profit search for knowledge. In other words, I'm a little negative, quite frankly, about the government and about nonprofits and about institutions. I'm not negative about when you show folks how to make money, that things good will happen. And so a lot of what I've tried to do with the RTP Guild and some of these other things, especially to attack this problem with private capital markets, is to figure out how we can all see each other to make money. In other words, how do you make money on this? And so with Holly, what we want to do is anticipate how Holly makes money on a new product and anticipate that and then put together the components. If we knew what he was going to do next, we would offer him our services and say, we want to make your life better and easier so that you're successful, you're profitable here in North Carolina. Yeah, Monty.
Yeah, one of the things that really shocks me in a way, and I'm not being negative about this event, we're heading in the right direction, is that with all the news that's come out in the past 3 days, and all the bitching and moaning and the frustration, and when we're talking about bringing, getting startups capital and this type of stuff, I mean, literally, we should have a room full of people right now. And the fact that we don't tells me that there's some sort of disconnect that we haven't fused. And once we fuse that disconnect, then there should be a room full of people. Because I mean, you just listen to the radio, we should have to knock out a wall here tonight. But we're not, so somehow we're not reaching that.
I think the natural reaction is the opposite. Everybody on TV and on the radio is telling us to close our wallets because we're going to need that money tomorrow. So people don't even come out and spend
Maybe
$10.
we need to get out on TV and give people a message of hope.
And tell me, beating the drum of economic courage and telling people, here's how you solve the economic problems you got and create value.
You're saying
Sell it to someone.
You're saying it's not a product, you say you start a company. Maybe we need to be beating that drum publicly. And here's 20 guys. We think this area could do great. We'll put our money where our mouth is. Maybe we should be doing more of that or something.
Yeah, I want to know better.
Okay.
Well, this area is doing great compared to the rest of the countries. House prices haven't dropped. I don't think the unemployment has gone down very much. Or come up very much. I think this area is doing great.
There is a lot of success in the area. There's a lot of need though for these folks. I don't know, do you know if the qualified business venture tax break is still out there? Because now, I don't know how many of you have ever taken advantage of that. I did that when I started my company. And you really don't see it offered, unless you look for it. But it's where you get up to 25% income tax credit for investors in your company, which is kind of in the way I was mentioned early on. A $10,000 investment, you get a 25% income tax credit the next year. A $10,000 investment is really a $7,500 risk. And the $7,500 risk, if you say you're in the 30% bracket and the company went belly up, you lost $10,000, but it was really only $7,500 because you got the 25% income tax credit. And then if you get your tax break on the loss, you're really only risking $5,000 for a $10,000 investment. And I was very successful in getting quite a bit of startup capital going through that process because the state of North Carolina, up to a point, has and you don't have to be a startup. I mean, there's a certain thing, and it's mainly for manufacturers where you can show that you do plan on, end up hiring people over time. And the paperwork's not that hard to do. You're going to pay a little bit to get it, it's like $500 or $1,000.
Well, there's also a R&D tax credit if the R&D is done domestically.
Problem with that, it's a tax credit for the company, and startups don't make profits, so it's really just helping IBM.
Yes.
And as far as I know, is that only for research done locally? I thought that also applies to their jobs outsourced to India.
We're starting to, actually, folks at Tech Elect were nice enough to put together a CD of materials for us. So we're going to have to start digging through that. I don't know the answer. But there's a lot of emphasis on that now because
I think that's a lot of that tax breaks for companies shipping jobs overseas that you hear on commercials. I'm not a big fan of the R&D tax credit. I think that's paying IBM to open, sweatshops here for engineers. It's not encouraging startups to start companies here and stay here.
no, but what that does drive though is if we have more R&D done here, that requires more infrastructure, and that infrastructure leads to startups who provide those services locally.
It's really weird. The startup generation here is very low from high tech, and yet we have a very large high tech workforce. So, obviously IBM, we had Nortel before they imploded. We've got a huge Cisco campus, SAS, the largest private software company in the world. Where are all the startups? We certainly have the talent, and there are plenty of ideas.
I can tell you that a lot of these startups are starting to come to our door. They're
Yeah.
starting to get business every week. And so the problem is that people don't know what to do next. We have so many startups that never get to the startup stage. They never get out the front door.
Well, and part of the problem, I think, is these little startups aren't being led by people who've done other startups. If you just have a humongous outsourced Nortel, then what you have at most is middle-level managers. Nobody who's ever started a company, and nobody who's interested enough to even show up at this forum, because they're not interested in innovation RTP. They're interested in paying engineers 25% less than what you have to pay them in Silicon Valley. And it doesn't generate the kind of startup flow that we see in Silicon Valley, where people have done one company and they're like, ooh, let's do another one.